We've got balls.
One of the greatest players of the pre-Super Bowl era, the man known as Concrete Charlie struck fear into opponents like no man before him, and some may say, like no man since. Born in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania in 1925 to recently immigrated parents from eastern Slovakia, Bednarik immediately joined the Air Force following his high school graduation and took part in 30 long-range bombing missions over Germany during World War II. For his courageousness and heroism, Bednarik received a number of honors, including 4 battle stars. Upon his return from service, Bednarik enrolled at Penn and excelled at both center and linebacker, and helped lead the Quakers to an undefeated record and a top 10 finish in 1947. Individually, Bednarik finished as a consensus All-American and managed to become the lone non-skill position player to receive any Heisman votes that season. The following year, though, Penn finished outside the top 25 for the first time in 4 years. Bednarik, however, took his game to the next level and once again finished as a consensus All-American while also taking home the Maxwell Award as the nation's best all-around player. He also finished third in Heisman voting behind only future Hall of Famer Doak Walker and future 16th round pick Charlie Justice, and he was once again the lone non-skill position player to finish as a finalist for the award that season. Bednarik was taken by his hometown Philadelphia Eagles, who were just the latest NFL champions to benefit from the league's odd lottery system, as they sported the game's number 2 offense and number 2 defense, on their way to taking down the Chicago Cardinals 7-0 at Shibe Park on the way to their first championship in franchise history. In short, the Eagles didn't need much more help on either side of the ball, but thanks to being awarded the number 1 overall pick by the league, they managed to get perhaps the only man in the draft who could make a significant impact as both an offensive and defensive player, as he became known as the league's final 60-minute man. As a rookie, Bednarik appeared in 10 out of 12 games, the only time throughout his entire career he missed multiple games in a season, and he helped the Eagles finish as the team's top defense and second best offense on their way to their second straight NFL championship with a 14-0 victory over the Rams. From there, his legend grew, and he began to don the fitting nickname of Concrete Charlie, not because of his unmatched toughness, and nor was it because of the punishing hits he doled out to opponents on a regular basis. Instead, it was due to the fact that as a way to supplement his income off the field, Bednarik sold concrete for the Warner Company during the offseason. On the field, it didn't take long for Bednarik to hit his stride, taking home 5 straight All-Pro honors from 1950 to 1954, and it was in 1954 against the Browns when a hard forearm to the mouth courtesy of future Hall of Fame head coach Chuck Noll led to an all-out brawl between these two legends of the gridiron immediately following the game. The fight was caught on television as the credits rolled, tarnishing the league's attempt at a family-friendly image. In retaliation, Commissioner Burt Bell forced Bednarik to pay a $500 fine and forced him also to apologize to Noll. As he began to enter his mid-30s, Concrete Charlie stepped away from playing linebacker in order to focus on playing center, which was much less physically demanding. At the end of the 1959 season, at the age of 34, Bednarik announced his retirement, and in what would have been the final game of his career, the Eagles blew a 21-14 fourth quarter lead thanks to a pair of Jim Brown touchdowns to give the Browns a 28-21 victory. And that was it for Concrete Charlie, until he realized the expense that having a 5th child brought him. Not to mention the fact that the Eagles had a real chance to do something special in the upcoming 1960 season. So, he decided to return to the gridiron once again under the guise that he would only play center. But that all changed in the Eagles' Week 5 matchup with the Browns, when starting outside linebacker Bob Pellegrini was carted off the field mid-game with a broken leg. Eagles head coach Buck Shaw asked Bednarik if he was willing to take over the vacant position, and being the competitor that he was, the 35-year-old jumped at the chance, and the Eagles went on to win their 4th straight game that season, 31-29. Perhaps the most famous moment of Bednarik's storied career came about a month later in New York against the one-loss Giants. With the game tied at 10, Bednarik forced a fumble which was returned by defensive back Jimmy Carr for a touchdown to give the Eagles the late-game lead. On the ensuing drive, Giants star Frank Gifford caught a pass, and in an attempt to stop him from getting out of bounds and stopping the clock, Bednarik clotheslined him, which forced a fumble and knocked the receiver out cold. Meanwhile, Bednarik stood over Gifford and in celebration shouted, quote, "This game is over." Gifford did not play again for 18 months. The Eagles meanwhile rode the momentum of their huge victory to a final record of 10-2 and were set to face off against the Green Bay Packers for a chance to capture their 3rd NFL championship. During the game, Bednarik played 140 snaps, only coming out for kickoffs. As the game wound to a close, the Eagles found themselves with a 17-13 lead, with the Packers closing in on the red zone. Hall of Fame fullback Jim Taylor then caught a pass out of the backfield and made a beeline for the end zone. But as always, Bednarik was in position to make the game-clinching tackle as he stopped Taylor short of the end zone and remained on top of him as the clock ran out in order to prevent the Packers from running another play. Bednarik and the Eagles had captured the championship and handed the legendary head coach Vince Lombardi the only postseason loss of his career. Bednarik returned to play center for the Eagles for 2 more seasons before hanging it up for good in 1962. Bednarik's post-playing career was full of ups and downs. As far as positives go, his number 60 was retired by the Eagles, and the franchise made him an inaugural member of their honor roll in 1987. When it comes to national honors, Bednarik didn't have a shortage of those either, as he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame on his first ballot in 1967, and in 1995, the Maxwell Football Club began giving out the award that now bears his name, which is annually given out to the nation's top defensive player. On the negative end of things, Bednarik became a critic of the modern game and its flashier players such as Deion Sanders and Terrell Owens, whom he believed couldn't match his toughness due to the lack of punishment they endured. Bednarik also had a long-standing feud with Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie because Lurie refused to buy 100 copies of his book for the team in 1996 as it was against the rules to buy the team gifts. After this, Bednarik began to distance himself from the team, even going so far as to openly root against them in their appearance in Super Bowl 39. However, the two sides were able to patch things up a few years later. In 2015, Bednarik passed away at the age of 89, and to this day, Concrete Charlie remains one of the greatest legends the game has ever seen, and perhaps the greatest player in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles.